News Talk 98.9, the roar of Memphis. Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
Welcome to Tool Talk Radio, coming to you from the Brown Refrigeration Studios. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning.
I'm Allan Gilbreth with darkoakmedia.com.
And I'm Maximilian, wishing a very happy birthday to a great friend of the show, Hedy Lamarr.
Oh, cool. Okay, we might have more to say about Hedy Lamarr. We all love her. Beautiful woman and a genius inventor. So.
Indeed.
Okay. Well, guys, it's been a few weeks since we've been here. Football has preempted us a little bit, but never fear, folks. That only means we've got 3 weeks worth of backlog material. We have a lot of really fun stuff today. Allan, you brought us this one on great moments in building history. This is very interesting that you would select such a unapologetically brutalist structure.
I did.
The Mazatlán Aquarium in Mexico.
I did.
This is going to be interesting. So,
it looks like something right out of Dune.
It yeah, it's interesting, folks. If you want to get a head start, just Google an image of this, and we promise you, this is not an abandoned structure. It's been sitting there for centuries. This is actually the way they designed it. So that's going to be interesting. I've got two tool tales. Well, I guess for lack of a better term, they're tool tales. And I also want to roundtable a situation with you, Allan, and about a customer of mine that had a failed hot water tank that basically is wreaking havoc on their hardwood floor and everything like that. We have our must-have item. We have let's see, Allan's weekend review or wiring. We got a whole bunch of stuff, and I have a science story / next $1 billion idea that I want to roundtable with you guys. When do I ever come here with a science story? But I did today. And we have a lot more. And, of course, we would love for you to get in touch with us. You can call or text us at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling Hotline at 901-683-0989. And we also invite you to join the Tool Talk Radio community and go to our Tool Talk Radio Facebook page. But before we get to any of those juicy topics...
Hang on 1 second. Let's make sure we give everybody what our call line is at Facebook. And all you got to do is put in the @ symbol Tool Talk Radio.
Did I not do that?
No. We need to remind folks that you got to put that little @ symbol. You just go to Facebook. You don't have to log in.
Oh, okay.
But you can put in that little @ symbol and go to Tool Talk Radio, and you'll go straight to our page.
Nice. Okay, there you go. So there's no reason not to connect with us or anything.
Well, there's plenty.
Okay, thanks, Max. But before we get to any of that, go ahead. We're going to get to our must-have item of the week because it looks like a man, I wish I had this week. Alan,
man.
We've posted it on our Facebook page, and why don't you tell people what I'm holding up here?
Well, you're holding up one of my new favorite things in the whole world, and that is a diamond grit-coated screwdriver head.
How many times have we preached this on the show? It only takes a little more to go first class.
Oh, my gosh.
Literally, this takes, another $1 or $2 to go first?
Yeah, it's like, honestly, $1 more than the cheap stuff.
Although, Allan, you were telling me that first class, in terms of diamonds aren't as rare as the businesses would like you to think.
That is very true, and I got to tell you, this is one of the best uses of a diamond I've run into in a long time. I love my diamond tip saw. I love my rock saw that has diamond cuts. But when I discovered these, now, of course, last February, I was doing a massive amount of sheetrock.
Oh, yeah.
And, sheetrock screws are not exactly the hardest metal out there. They're moderate. They're not the cheapest.
You can snap the heads. You can strip them.
You can pop that head pretty easily.
Right.
That is when I really got to appreciate having a good gripping. And, of course, these are Phillips head, number 2 size. And the way it locked in, and you did not get that, when you don't have a good hit in there, and it starts skipping around the inside of the screw, and you get that machine gun sound going.
Right.
And you're just stripping out the screw. You're not getting it into where you need it.
Horrible feeling.
It is, because now you just got to back that screw out, throw it away, get another one, do it again. That was cut by almost, I would say, somewhere between 70 and 80%.
Oh, yeah.
By just changing out and having a fresh, clean screwdriver tip on my little powered screwdriver.
Well, the thing about it, folks, and if you're trying to envision this, I mean, I think most of us these days we have a drill of some sort.
Yep.
And maybe cordless, maybe not. But the handy thing is to put in the Phillips head screwdriver, the star bits, whatever. But the difference you notice here, you could easily mistake this for something else. But there, like Allan said, there's a grit to it. There is just a little bit of texture, but it's amazing what a difference that makes. And for one thing, grabbing the screw and keeping it, and also just keeping it from wearing out so quickly.
Oh, yeah.
Because there's that little extra, and well, if it's not stripping, it's not wearing out. That's what usually does it, But the other thing I wanted to say about this, as long as we're talking about screwdriver bits, is you know how on the side, okay, this is a PH2.
Okay.
You know how there's a different number because.
Yes.
It's easy to mistake to go, oh, just give me the Phillips head. Well,
no.
There's different sizes, and if they don't fit the screw correctly, it makes your life really miserable. For one thing, if it's too big, you can't use it at all. But if it's too small, that's when you get the stripping. And for my money, the PH2 is one of the most universal, best bits to get. What's your opinion?
Well, that is your drywall size.
Right. Well, it's a lot of size.
Well,
I have some
know,
deck screws. I have a lot of screws that are this size.
Well, but the drywall fitting is the standard fitting for most of your construction type screws that you and I deal with. Whether it's a deck screw, whether it's a quote-unquote construction exterior screw, or it's an interior drywall. Those are normally the screws we deal with the most, unless you get into finishing furniture.
Right. Yeah.
And that number 2 locks, it does exactly what it was designed to do. So all you got to do is basically get the tip on the top of the screw somewhere, and as you begin to rotate it, it will fall into place, lock in, and begin to rotate that screw properly.
Yep.
Another big thing is when you have a good fitting tip, it makes you put your wrist in the right position. And I cannot tell you.
That right.
All right, and this goes out to everybody I've taught how to do this over the last 20 years. Thank you for paying attention. 2, oh my goodness, doesn't the wrist position make a big deal?
Yeah.
But just, when you're a newbie, see, you and I do this all the time. We don't even think about it. But when you watch some poor new person sitting there with a brand new drill, with a brand new everything, trying to do something new, their arm and their elbow and their tools are honestly all over the place. And something as simple as the right bit fits into place, you automatically feel it grip in there, and that makes you hold your arm steady and your wrist steady. And when you give it a little power, now you can actually feel what's going on instead of, and I'm thinking back 30, 40 years ago, the old just find them and grind them. Man, we used to just beat them to death. Oh, my gosh.
Well, one thing, as long as we're beating this into the ground, the one last little thing I will say about, like you said, having your wrist and everything in the right position, you should have your body in the right position too, because I find even if I'm reaching over, like a perfect example, I was putting in sheetrock last week. If you're reaching overhead, even a foot, you can reach the screw, but you have no leverage. That's when it slips out of. That's when it slips out of space. Or if you're, reaching over to your right, there's no substitution for just getting behind it. So don't just bring a little step stool. Use at least a 4-foot ladder. Get yourself in the right position and get that leverage going. But this definitely helps. And you said these are about $1 or $2 more. So
yeah, it's honestly, it's like an extra $1 over the pack of these slick cheap ones.
They're easy to overlook, folks, but just but look closely, and so get the PH2 diamond grit, and you'll be in business. So hey, Max, you said it's Hedy Lamar's birthday, right?
Correct.
How old would she be today?
She was born in 1913.
Oh, wow. Okay. So, because we've talked about her in the past, folks that may not know, she's actually she was a genius, and she lived her actual life was like a spy novel. She lived right in the time of World War II. But what was she known for, Max?
She's known as the mother of Wi-Fi.
Now,
because
that's an interesting claim.
she created a very interesting technology with the help of a friend and composer by the name of George Antile. When they were both sitting at a piano together trying to figure out the problems of the world, i.e. the Germans wreaking havoc on the seas, they developed something called frequency hopping technology, which entails, well, the Germans are going to jam a torpedo signal. Well, why don't we just make a signal that hops from one frequency to another too fast for the Germans to detect until it's too late? And then eventually, because, that operates on a closed network of multiple frequencies, it's a pretty easy translation later on to develop it into Wi-Fi.
Interesting. So, so she's sort of like, I don't know what you'd say. Maybe she inspired Wi-Fi or something like that.
Well, the figuring out the basic groundwork to something like that that has become so common these days. I believe it was Asimov who said at some point technology will be indistinguishable from magic.
Yeah.
Let's think about it. Wi-Fi. I go to my computer, I type something, I hit print, and with no wires connecting them, my printer comes on and prints what's on my screen.
Yeah.
That is beyond...
80 years ago, nobody would have imagined.
I mean, this is Star Trek stuff.
Right.
This is Star Trek stuff. So she had the mentality to sit down and not have anything like this ever before have this thought.
Right. That's what it usually is. Somebody's first out of the gate. They're told that their idea is ridiculous and it'll never work.
And it was actually rejected by the Navy at the time.
Right. It gets rejected. I mean, that's kind of just the standard way.
We've never done it like that before.
So it's not possible, or it's too expensive, or it's a whatever. So, yeah. Usually people that succeed, they just blow past all that stuff and they just do it anyway. So, well, hey, with that in mind, that's a perfect way to tee up this conversation I've got coming up. Stand by, you guys. I have the next $1 trillion idea and a nice little science discussion coming up. You're listening to Tool Talk Radio. We're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back.
Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
Can't find my checkbook. Hope you don't mind I pay you in change.
News Talk 98.9, the roar of Memphis.
Yeah, that happened to me many times in my early career, Allan. Anyway, welcome back to Tool Talk Radio, coming to you from the Brown Refrigeration Studios. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning, here with my buddy Allan Gilbreth from darkoakmedia.com and our pal Max over there behind the glass. You can call or text us at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling Hotline at 901-683-0989. And if you want to follow us on Facebook, just go to @Tool Talk Radio. Right? There we go. Okay. I made new notes, Allan. So.
All right. Awesome.
All right. Max, hit it. This is going to be an interesting conversation.
Hail science!
For once, I'm bringing a science story to the table, you guys. Well, it's science slash, the next $1 billion idea. And I already can tell, I'm looking right at my co-host over here, and he's going to tell me, after I pitch this idea, you're going to say, oh, we're already doing that, If we're doing this, though, I don't think it's being done widespread, so I'm just going to...
Hey, I'm always up for an investment opportunity.
Here's my jumping off point, and it's perfect that it's today's Hedy Lamar's birthday because this is very apropos. Here's my jumping off point. You talked about it before the break. We went from a typewriter to a word processor.
Yes.
Essentially, if you had a typewriter back in the day, you typed up your letter, you said, shoot, I made a mistake. I either have to wrinkle it up, start over, or get some white out or whatever, and hope for the best. And it's never good. I mean, if you had a perfect result using a typewriter, you're a miracle worker because it just, Okay. Then we get the word processor, and you type up your thing. You say, oh, I want to move this sentence over here, or I want to erase this. You print it up, you get perfect results. Well, we have this try it before you buy it stuff today. You can go to a paint store, and you have a picture of your living room, and you say, I wonder what it would look like with this navy blue wall. You basically type the code in. Well, I feel like it's going to come to a point soon where it's just going to be that way with everything. However, I'm thinking of like some of these virtual reality goggles. Maybe we get ourselves, maybe this is something that one of the big companies out there makes, maybe some glasses or something. And more or less, let's suppose I want to go I want to redecorate my entire living room. So I take a video of my living room, I go to the furniture store, I put on my glasses, and I say, I wonder what it would look like if this couch was over here and this table was over here. Essentially, completely redo the whole living room virtually, and you could look at it. You can look at it in 360 degrees. You can look at it with the lights on, with the lights dim. Or maybe I want to build a sunroom on my house, so I take a video of that. I see. So in other words, I guess what I'm saying is you could experience in 3 dimensions using these special glasses or using this special technology, get it all completely finished first. Like if I'm a contractor and I want to show people what it's going to look like if we remove that wall to their kitchen and put the cabinets over here, we can do it all and perfect the design before we tear out one thing. What do you think? So I guess I'm talking about just the stepping up our try it before you buy it situation. So
I'm going to tell you exactly what you just said.
I knew it.
Well, it's probably only, I would say, really honestly, exactly the way you just described it is probably only about 2 years out.
I don't think it's far away. I mean, we're pretty much...
It's really there of, so why are we going to talk about computers and Wi-Fi on a tool show? Because this is dramatically the direction a lot of this is going to go.
Everything's connected. Even table saws are on Wi-Fi sometimes. And
then the dishwashers sing to you.
Right.
On Wi-Fi.
Oh,
yeah.
Oh, my gosh. A friend of mine has a dryer. I just want to take a baseball bat to.
Yeah.
Nothing that simple has the right to be that happy when it's done. That thing just celebrates itself. Okay.
But what I guess I'm getting at is we have the technology to virtually see the results before we do anything and have all these regrets of why did I choose that and why did I take that wall out and why did so that's what I think. It's not a bad thing.
I'm not going to say you triggered me, but you just opened the words that I was headed for.
Okay.
I will give you a case in point. We have a lovely neighborhood here in Memphis. Very nice, a little upscale, very well designed. And a friend of mine bought the house of the architect that designed the area. So they bought the weirdo house.
I was about to say that's the house with all the experimental.
That's the house with all the weird stuff in it that the architect thought was a great idea. For the niche person, that house is perfect. But here's going to be my cautionary tale about looking at this stuff in 3D. It's still not the real living space. It looks cool.
Yeah.
But you cannot ergonomically move through the space.
Not yet. We don't, these virtual goggles, if you go to conventions, folks, you'll see they'll have, it's almost like an arena, and these people have these goggles on, and it looks like they're fighting imaginary things. And they're walking and they're moving and they're interacting with whatever they're seeing.
I'm not saying the holodeck won't be real in 2 years. And you and I could walk in and go, all right, let me see the building plans to building A that you and I are working on.
Right.
And let's bring up the studs. So you and I could then, with our VR goggles, go walk around the rooms and see if they spatially work the way we want them to work. That is very real because that is also part of something called impact printing.
What's that?
A notch up from additive printing.
Yeah.
Which is the commercial notch up from 3D printing.
Right.
So the problem with additive printing so far is that it has to be something that can be extruded. AKA it has to have a certain fluidity to it to come out of the nozzle and go into the form.
Oh, right.
With impact printing, it's getting more like having a giant robot build stuff with Lego blocks.
Yeah, I mean, I hate to say it because I feel like the next step in this is, we know exactly what we want designed. We're just going to have a CNC machine construct everything, and we're going to assemble it on the job site and everything, which we kind of already have in a lot of that's what modular homes are about.
We're getting closer and closer to that. And for the I'm going to say I'm going to kind of a side-eye Max over here a little bit as he is infinitely younger than I am.
Yeah.
And go, when Max decides to build a home.
Right.
in, I don't know, whether you decide to build one in 5 years or 10 years, 10 years from now, you're going to build your dream home. You are probably not going to be looking at the technology that Joe and I experienced 40 years ago getting into this business.
Yep.
You're going to be making choices of, I don't know, what kind of extrudant you want to build your walls out of.
Right.
Well, we have sheetrock and 2x4s.
Yeah.
And, if you and I think about the number of technologies that have changed to get us to this point, I can see where the 3D goggle walkthrough, I could honestly see a builder having a holodeck in their office to where you could put on your goggles and go walk around any number of house floor plans.
Well, exact. See, this is what I was getting at. I'm not totally opposed to this because I was on a job this week. Perfect example. I was doing an installation and there were some, let's just say the blueprints for this were overly, I didn't, well, for one thing, they weren't specific on the items that I wanted pointed out, and they were way too convoluted on all this nitpicky stuff. And I'm looking at this, and this, I guess what I like is I like when you're on a job site and all the contractors understand what they're supposed to do, and because we're all looking at the same blueprints.
Right.
It's much easier to visualize if you're if I'm the framing carpenter, and this is what this is where the stud's going. This is where the everything. Mm-hmm. This is where all the pipes are going to go, and then the next person coming in, the plumber or whatever, gets to put the goggles on and say, oh, okay, this is where we're doing whatever. It's much easier to visualize, I suppose, something like this. I would love it, listeners, if you have feelings about this, because I know it's sort of one step away from the robots taking over, but I still think this is not a terrible thing. I like the idea of seeing something and not having to buy something or do something and have all sorts of regrets. Like, why didn't we do this? Because even on some of the most successful projects, this, somebody's like, well, if I could have done this again, I would have put the door over there, or I would have done that. We've heard that for years. So it's like, this is a way to maybe avoid that. So.
Well, you and I've also walked into any number of buildings and just gone, what were they thinking when they put a doorway right there?
Right.
We've seen some crazy, insane stuff, especially as people have renovated to meet whatever fad was going on in the 50s or the 70s or the 90s.
Yeah. Well, the technology's coming, and like I said, we'd love to know what you think. Give us a call or text at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling Hotline, 901-683-0989. Well, we're going to take a quick break here on Tool Talk Radio. Then we're going to find out what Allan's been doing for the last 3 weeks.
Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
I'm in danger.
News Talk 98.9, the roar of Memphis.
And welcome back to Tool Talk Radio, coming to you from the Brown Refrigeration Studios. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning, here with my buddy Allan Gilbreth from darkoakmedia.com and our pal Max over there behind the glass. You can call or text us at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling Hotline at 901-683-0989, especially if you want to wish Hedy Lamarr a happy 100 and I think, 14th birthday, something like that. 111th birthday. Hey, 111. Not bad. 111. And also, if you have any opinions, we'd love to get your opinions about the next $1 billion idea I brought to you before the break, and which I'm sure there's a variation of it being done out there, but more or less the try it before you buy it on steroids, more or less. It's like you can live this experience in 3D and decide whether you want to do this or not, but it gives you a more comprehensive look at your next project. So before we find out what Allan did for the last 3 weeks, who knows what he's gotten into, we do want to talk about our good buddy Larry Brown with Brown Refrigeration, because you talk about a person who is unafraid of the advances in technology. He doesn't run from it, he embraces it, which is why Brown Refrigeration has been such an innovative and really bedrock company of the Mid-South for 40 years. Actually, we're getting close to the 50. Sorry, Larry, you're getting a little up there, but we're getting close to the 50-year anniversary of Brown Refrigeration. There's a reason they're so successful because, for one thing, they've created a great business culture, but also, as we said, they're constantly innovating. They're constantly ahead of the curve when it comes to technology. Your HVAC system is probably the most important. Well, it is in terms of the inside of your home. It is the most important system in your home. It affects every square inch of your interior space. You need to regulate and air and condition the air in your home, and nobody does it better than Brown Refrigeration. They use trained systems. They use the Remy Halo system to ensure that the air is the cleanest possible, and they have state-of-the-art ductwork technology for cleaning out your ducts. It's a good idea, even if you're not ready to replace your HVAC system, to have Brown Refrigeration visit once or twice a year. They can tune up your system. They can give it an inspection, it's always important to get a professional inspection on your HVAC system. You don't need to just guess. You want them to, and they'll identify things that you're not going to notice. So it's basically next to nothing. The inspection pays for itself. And then if it is time to replace, there's nobody better. And they even have great financing. And they answer their phones, which we always appreciate. And if you're really lucky, the lovely Mrs. Brown will answer the phone and take care of your call. But either way, get in touch with them. You can call them directly at 901-362-1881 or go to their website, brownref.com. All right, I'm looking at you, my friend.
Oh, the humanity.
This is the part of the show where we like to visit with our friend Allan Gilbreth, and it's always interesting because as we said, my work is generally very similar from week to week, but yours is a hodgepodge. We never know what you're going to do, so we always like to check in, and it's been a few weeks since we've been preempted for football.
That's true.
So you've got a backlog, I'm sure, of projects, but I hope they've been good projects.
Well, all right, I'll be right back. Pretend I'm walking off and coming back with a large soapbox.
Oh, okay. Oh, here we go. Okay, gotcha. Yeah.
All right, you and I have a favorite topic over the years all right, ladies and gentlemen, if you're listening, get involved with this. Get up right now, look around your room, and realize, what is your lighting?
How often do we preach light? Hey, I'll join you on the soapbox there.
Lighting
is the paintbrush of your home.
It is.
It changes everything.
So, all right, some mutual friends of ours called me a few weeks ago, and they had issues. They had a lot of issues. They had a lot of 1978 lighting issues in the kitchen, in the dining area. So we go over, and it became lesson time. It's kind of like, all right, we're going to fix this, but you're getting up on the ladder with me.
Maybe they should get their own ladder.
Well, yeah, but but you know what I mean. You're getting up here with me. You're elevating up here with me, and all right, LED technology, absolutely astounding, absolutely amazing, because now we can create lighting effects without all of the bulky incandescent mess that we've dealt with for the last 100 years.
And heat.
Oh my gosh. So if you want something that lies close to the ceiling, guess what? There's an LED that does that. But I'm going to throw in a cautionary tale about the manufacture of these things. Some of them, and especially the cheaper ones, really require a perfectly flat surface, and how they lock into place is horrifyingly inefficient.
Boy, you're triggering me because you're sure right about that. Sometimes that, yeah.
Oh.
Yep. Right, wait, so did you have the kind of LED? I'm sure folks have seen that. It's no longer a thing of every light bulb just screws into place. There may be two little posts that you got to position and twist into place, and if they don't lock, they don't light up, they fumble.
Well, this one was a little worse in the fact that it had a little platform. And now it depends on which way the platform goes. If you have a substantial platform, aka something you can kind of see and feel before you put this thing up, you can lock it and unlock it and kind of feel how it goes. That's a great one. This one was very insufficient for the job. It barely covered the little socket hole, and then you had to line it up just perfect and get it to just basically dangle on the mountings. And it's just a little flat tray of LED, semiconductors. So there's no bulbs or anything. It's just a very flat. It looks cool, but 4 hours to install a $9 light. Throw it away.
Right.
Get a different one. The rest of the tale is I love people to DIY a job. I really do, because we're all about doing it yourself and that kind of stuff. However, do not get cute. Do not get cute. Do not replace all of your light switches with cutesy little plates that click up and down, and then get extra cutesy and install them all upside down.
Oh. Yeah, test it before
This was a cute idea, I'm sure. However, in the job I was just on this week, I get a call and it's kind of like, all right, the whole laundry area is out. It's gone. That light fixture is toast. So we're going to slap a new one up there. Of a new LED fixture costs less than the fluorescent bulbs.
It looks much nicer.
You talk about a no-brainer. I'm like, we're just yanking all that off the ceiling.
Right.
So we yank all that down, but because everything the baluster had already gone, this whole area was already dark. So I go in and I thought I had turned off the light switch.
I think I know where this is going. Yeah.
I got a rude surprise.
Yeah. So you had hot wires that you were making contact with.
I said a few things my grandmother probably wouldn't have appreciated.
Gosh, that is the most revolting feeling, getting zapped.
Popped when
I
you
hate that.
turn the light switch off.
Right. Yep. Okay.
And I'm going don't get cute. Please, when you DIY, follow standard rules.
Well, and the other thing, I'm not as big of a fan of people DIYing when it comes to outlets and changing a light's one thing, but changing the light switch or the outlets, because as you know, sometimes they're wired differently, and those you don't just go grab one off the shelf. There's 10 different one wire comes in this way, one connects to another one, and they're not universal. You have to get the exact fit. Or
perfect example of that, a friend of mine called me a couple of weeks ago and had been given a lamp. Okay. And this was not a I went down to the discount store and spent $29. This was a serious lamp.
Okay.
This was tall, featured all kinds of glass work, worked at multiple levels, and the little clicker had gone out so that you couldn't turn on and off the bulbs. And it looked like a three-way switch. So we go get a three-way switch, we install it, it doesn't work.
You're about the little twist knob thing that you just...
Well, I had to order a special twist knob too.
Okay.
Right. Yeah, I had to order the little kit, right? And turns out what I really needed was a 3-pole 4-way switch, only made in the mountains of some place under a full moon. So I had to order one of those and wait for it to come in, and got it installed and put a new little long stem on it so it reached all the way through. And it was very gratifying to see this lamp. And again, this is a grandiose lamp come back to life.
In all its glory.
In all its glory. The little lights clicked on, the little lights clicked off, the big lights clicked on, the big lights clicked off, and it's just a gorgeous work. So for those of you at home that have got kind of a lamp that works a little janky, take your time, look at your parts, and research how many things it needs to turn on and off, because maybe your big box store's got the parts and maybe you need to order them.
And also take that part with you to the store and hold them side by side.
Yes.
And even if you can test them together, that's the way to go. Yeah. And every town has their own there's the big box store, then there's that niche specialty
Oh, yeah.
hardware store, get to know those people too, because
Oh, yeah,
they're the
big
ones
time.
that'll have that part. So, all right, well, a pretty successful 3 weeks then. Nothing horrifying in there. So,
Yeah, only tried to get electrocuted twice. It's okay.
okay. But when we come back, I have a tool tale to share with everyone.
Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
I'm describing a person, not something complicated like a wooden sailing ship or proper dovetail technique.
News Talk 98.9, the roar of Memphis.
There's always a snide vibe from that guy. Anyway, welcome back to Tool Talk Radio, coming to you from the Brown Refrigeration Studios. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning, here with my buddy Allan Gilbreth from darkoakmedia.com and our pal Max over there behind the glass. You can call or text us at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling Hotline at 901-683-0989. And especially if you've got some thoughts about some of the topics we've had on the table today. And especially if we'd love to know what you've been doing for the last 3 weeks since we visited the last time. So get in touch with us. And we also invite you to go over to to Facebook and go to @Tool Talk Radio to join the Tool Talk Radio community. So, all right. Well, Max, I've got something here.
And now, Tool Tales with Tool Talk Radio.
So here's what I'm trying to figure out. So, Tool Tales is a good time for us to round table and kind of bounce ideas or just share an experience we had. And it's funny because, for all of our years of working on this, I'm thinking I'm getting past. I know I've been doing this for more than 30 years, but if you count all your experience, I studied woodwork in high school. We're talking decades of experience.
Right.
And yet every day you get thrown new things and you're constantly learning, which is kind of cool. It's nice that you're learning, but then sometimes I'm sort of baffled as well. Like, why can't I solve this problem here? So I was working on, I think I mentioned it. I was working on an installation this week, and it was going to be mounted to a wall. It was basically going in a laundry room, it was going to be supporting a lot of weight. So when it's like cabinets. So when you install cabinets, especially when they're elevated, you have to hit the stud. You have to know dead center where that stud is. You don't want to be screwing into the side or whatever. You want to get the meat of the stud, So basically I had my stud finder, but I'm also a fan of the little magnetic cheapo $10 stud buddy.
Yeah.
It's basically, folks, if you don't know what that is, it's literally a magnet it's a pointy shaped magnet, and you run it across the wall, and when you hit a screw, it's pretty clear that you've hit a stud or a nail or whatever. But unless, of course, you're near a water line, which can confuse the math.
Yeah.
But anyway, I like to use both. And what was odd, this home that I was working on, I hate to say it, but I think we're talking a 1970s project here. So I'm in there, and okay, and I needed to find these studs, and I'm telling you, man, I started with the stud finder, and there were places where I'm like, okay, I just went 3 feet and I did not hit a stud. I don't know what's going on here. So I take out the stud buddy, boom, I hit a screw right there. Then the reverse happened where I hit a stud with the stud finder. And folks, if you don't know what a stud finder is, I should explain. It's an electronic little beeper thing, and you slide it across the wall, and it there's usually a red light and a green light, and as you move slowly horizontally, it'll light up and shows you exactly where the thing is. Well, I had some where I found the stud, and then I was just to double check, I ran the stud buddy with the magnet, and I'm telling you, man, I went 3 or 4 or 5 feet sometimes in there, literally without hitting a nail. So I guess what I'm asking, Allan, is were they cheapos in the back in the it turned into this big ordeal because I'm trying to be ultra cautious and make sure I know where these studs are, but were they cheapskates with screws back in the day, or what's going on with this technology where it's failing me a little bit? Don't say user error. Because
Nope. I'm going to give you one word answer.
Talk to me.
Aluminum.
Wait, now that's interesting. Aluminum. You're saying aluminum screws, aluminum
nails. We had. I mean, if you think about it,
I didn't think of that.
We had a explosion of technology in the 70s. Just like we've had recently. The last 10 years, there's more weird stuff at the hardware store in the last 10 years than since the 70s, because that is pretty much when everything changed. We left lead paint behind, we left asbestos behind, and suddenly the major paint companies all began coming out with new mixes and new things. We came up with new ideas for how to thread pipes. We came up with aluminum. We came up with aluminum studs.
Right.
We did.
Yeah,
we came up with all kinds of, we tried everything. And as a very dear friend of mine used to say in this business, Allan, they closed the door.
What does that mean?
That meant nobody was watching, so you don't know what they used.
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm picturing. It didn't occur to me about aluminum because I've had that in the past too. I'm looking, okay, I'm not hitting a nail anywhere. How is this wall being held up? But because it would never occur to me to use aluminum screws for one thing. And just as long as we're on our little soapbox, I don't care if it's a little more expensive. I don't even use, I got a confession here. I don't use sheetrock screws. I use exterior deck screws to hold up my sheetrock because I don't want water or moisture getting in there and rusting and causing, whatever. But
especially in a bathroom, yeah.
Yeah, and well, yeah. This is a laundry room. This is a whatever. So why not just spend a little more and make it foolproof and everything? But
a lot of them didn't.
Yeah.
And the other thing that I run into periodically, and it is always a late 70s, early 80s construction, is there was kind of a thing going on with wall mud. And that was adding stuff to wall mud.
Oh, like what?
Well, periodically I run into pink wall mud.
Yeah.
Where somebody was trying to add fireproofing.
Oh, they just mixed it in.
They just had them a little box of the powder that they mix, wasn't like the technology we have now 40 years later. But I still run into this in buildings where you'll be looking at this, and of course, I'm standing there with somebody half my age, and they go, it's pink. Why is it pink? Well, let me tell you what that bad idea was all about. And so you could actually have some kind of impurity or something added to the mud under the paint that could be obscuring either one of your tools.
That's interesting because there you got the sense that there was almost this distortion or there was something, and even with the electronic stud finder, it was acting squirrely. It would light up at points where it's like, why is it lighting up? And then it wouldn't light up at other points. So I wonder if there was some experimenting going on because it was it's a laundry room. It's not the laundry room I'm building, folks. This was another job.
Right.
And maybe they did get cute. They thought, well, we've got all this moisture in here in a confined space, and we've got high voltage mixed together. Let's put a little something in that sheetrock.
And I also remember there was a fad for a while of reflective coatings. So
there might be something to that too, because this was an exterior. This faced an exterior wall.
So you could also have basically a sheet of aluminum foil, for lack of a better explanation, across there that was a reflective barrier that was put in at the time. Because there were a number of those of 80s, 90s.
I could see that. And especially if they're using it as a way of insulating and whatever other ideas they have. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just kind of like, well, we're going to build an ultra modern house. So this baby is going to be, going to have all of those reflective qualities.
Yeah.
But, basically it's still a metal infused fabric.
And well, folks, and then the other fail-safe one, do not do this. I'm saying this in exclamation points. Don't do this technique if you're anywhere near a water line or an electrical line. But the fail-safe one you can always do is take yourself a 3-inch finish nail and just start tapping the sheetrock till you hit a stud. I mean, that's the barbaric primal way to do it, but it's also foolproof.
I'm going to add...
you hit a stud.
I'm really going to go back to the Stone Age and tell you my favorite last-ditch effort to find a stud. is a $5 stethoscope and tapping on the wall. Seriously, because if
Sounds
you
very
start
Sherlock Holmesian.
Oh
so.
yeah, we're back in the day, and where they put a glass on the wall and could hear somebody talking in the other room. If you tap in the center between the studs, very hollow, and as you tap and get closer to a stud, of course now it's not hollow, so you will hear a change in pitch in the tap.
I don't know if I trust that.
Well, I didn't. I said that
okay.
was the last. That you had a plan A, you had a plan B. That is my plan D, and then I will get the 3-inch finish nail and tap it through and see if I actually found it.
Right, but don't get frustrated and say, "Who cares? I'm just putting this thing up and getting out of here." Because if it doesn't hit the stud, they're going to call you when this thing collapses and crushes.
Yeah,
their
you got to
washing
make
machine.
sure it can support that weight.
Absolutely. So, wow, I don't know where the first hour went, Alan, but it's gone. No, you'll never get it back, folks. But stay tuned. We have a lot coming up. I'm looking forward to our great moments in building history when we talk all about the Mazatlán Aquarium in Mexico. You're listening to Tool Talk Radio. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back.
News Talk 98.9, the roar of Memphis. Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allen.
And welcome back to Tool Talk Radio, coming to you from the Brown Refrigeration Studios. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning, here with my buddy Alan Gilbreth from darkoakmedia.com and our pal Max over there behind the glass. You can call or text us at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling Hotline at 901-683-0989. Especially if you've got, you sort of brought this up earlier, Alan. If you got something weird in your house or something unexplained or something that's a little baffling in the, why did they put this here? Send us a picture. We'd love to see it and kind of analyze and diagnose and put on our Sherlock Holmes.
And how it's not a ghost.
Yeah. Or on the flip side, maybe you have something super cool that it's like, man, I love this one distinct feature, because every home is a little different. So I'm especially thinking of some of these mid-century modern homes, which...
Or I'm thinking of stuff on, the East Coast, because, yes, you have sort of archaic structures, but they really look cool.
Yeah, so we'd love to see stuff like that.
Oh,
Send
yeah,
us in.
absolutely.
Perfect platform to do that. You can send pictures or text, and of course, we love it if you give us a call. We also invite you to go to Facebook and go to @Tool Talk Radio and join the Tool Talk Radio community. So, you guys, I want to roundtable something, because this is one of these situations where there's the question of, are we going for the nuclear option here, or is there a Band-Aid approach, or is there something in between? So, customer of mine, the one I'm working on this great big project in Midtown. So they're a very tight family. His mother actually has a home right across the street from his, and that doesn't bother him. I don't know if I'd like that myself, but anyway. So, and his sister lives down the street a block. Go figure. But anyway, his home, as we said, is built in 1929, but directly across, her home was built in the 50s. So we're calling this mid-century modern. It's a one-story home, very different from his. This is a 3-story home. Well, she's for the moment living she's staying in Jackson, so he's been keeping an eye on her home. Well, here we go. He came in the house the other day, and squish on the carpet. And basically it was flooded. What happened was the hot water tank, which is in, I think, the hallway closet, failed. I asked him, I said, did the hose fail? That's where it seems like it happens a lot. I know that happened with my house. I remember I told you that story where the hose burst and it flooded well, this one apparently failed down below. He thinks his hot water tank's probably 20 years old. It corroded at the bottom and it basically flooded. So anyway, she's got hardwood floors everywhere. And of course he gets the water stopped. He gets the water cleaned up. He's got all those big fans going and everything, but what he's starting to notice is some buckling. And we're talking real hardwood. These are the 3/4 inch. Oh, they're probably 7/8 oak, and some of it's buckling. It's curling on the edges, if you can imagine that, folks, where it's sort of cupping, you could call it. Nothing's totally popping out, but he's on the fence of, do we rip the entire thing out, or do we try to salvage it. Because what you can do, folks, if it's possible, is, and I know we got floor guys out there that would probably be able to tell us better, but basically sand it down, get rid of those edges, and refinish the floor. That's what he's hoping he could do, but what are some warning things that he needs to think about? I guess that's what I wanted to roundtable with you, because you've seen your share of water damage, Allan.
Oh, my gosh, yes.
Yeah.
Well, the biggest thing is he needs to get one of the little devices that measures moisture content.
Boom. Hey, I was thinking that too.
Because
I was thinking of mold. Mold is my first.
Mold's number 2 on this, because the moisture content of the wood needs to be, 10%, 20%, whatever it's supposed to be for a floor. It's low.
Yeah.
So, the moisture content, the humidity level in a house should always be 50% or less. If it's too dry, you can't breathe. You're going to get nosebleeds and stuff, but you don't want it 60, 70, 80%, like the outdoor world.
Right.
So, one, he needs to keep that air on.
He did that.
Yeah, he needs to get that air on.
Even if it's chilly in there, he's trying to remove the moisture.
Well, he probably needs to just leave that heat on.
Yeah.
And I hate to say you're going to run an 80-degree heat bill for a few weeks, but you probably are, because you need to get that moisture out from underneath there.
I mean, he's running the air. He's running the fan continually. Like he's moving air. He's moving air. He's got it on fan.
But now I think he needs to get into air conditioning and be removing moisture from the house. Then it's a matter of how much damage.
Well, here was a question. This is one thing that I had, because, the floor, whatever you do to it, it's going to need, it needs something. It's buckle. It's got, curls. It's whatever. Well, here's a thought, and I don't know the answer to this. Maybe you know the answer. Okay, well, obviously the floor's got a polyurethane finish on it. It's probably got who knows how many coats of wax. Well, at this stage of the operation, would it make sense to sand it down, even if it's not a finished sand, and get rid of that top coat and let the wood breathe? In other words, would it help to remove moisture by getting rid of that top coat? I feel like it has to, don't you think? Or
well, I can't argue with that. But that might be redundant work if the floor is not salvageable.
Right. That's the other question. Is it worth that? And so that's why I guess I was wondering, maybe do a rough. I don't know what.
Well, I'm of two minds. It really just depends on how that floor is damaged.
Mm-hmm.
And, if it's going to, I even remember a floor I worked on, this is probably 20 years ago, of the floor had one buckle in it near the back door.
Yeah.
Because something had become uncaulked, unsealed around the back door, and some water had gotten under it, and it had bubbled up.
Right.
But this was a legitimate, true hardwood floor. And the floor guy there came in and set up a fan and put about 8 cinder blocks on it.
Oh.
And just forced it back down as it dried.
Interesting.
And again, this was a long time ago, and this is not, I'm not advocating this, but I was kind of like, but it worked.
That's the caveman approach.
It was kind of the brutalist caveman approach, but it worked. It flattened back down. And then once they were done with all of the other renovations in the house, they did go in and give the floor a light sand and a refinish. Because that is the advantage of having deep, real wood.
Yeah.
Over the years. Now, it just really depends on the damage there. And I'm sure there are professional flooring people out there that are going, and they're probably like me. They're of two minds. Well, you're probably going to have to pull some of that flooring up and get rid of it because it is too damaged. Or, as I have seen in the past, damaged floors sometimes have more character than anything else you can have.
That's the thing. I love, what did you call this, Max? Kintsugi or?
Wabi-sabi.
Wabi-sabi. That's the notion of celebrating imperfection.
Yeah, imperfect perfection.
Right. We talk about that because I'm a fan. I like that. I like that there's a story behind this. That's from the Great Flood of 24.
Yeah,
that's when we, whatever, and that's where we got that ring there.
Or like your daughter who has a dent on her Toyota.
Right. Yeah, because a moose or a deer fell on the hood. So, yeah, exactly. But what I was thinking, too, though, is what is it? Okay, here's another thing that I learned actually late in my career. I have to be honest and admit this on the air. We talk about, okay, some houses have a crawl space. Some houses have a slab. This house is on a slab.
Right.
However, that doesn't necessarily mean that the hardwood floor is attached directly to concrete. There's sometimes, like my home, for example, we're on a slab, but there is a 3.5 inch basically subfloor that there's 2x4s on their side, and then there's plywood on top of that, and then our flooring. So you don't necessarily want that saturated and water trapped in there.
Right.
And I guess so I guess also I'm wondering how you determine whether yours is attached to because you almost have to tap on it, I think.
Well, there's a lot of questions here. Yeah, there's a lot of questions of.
And what does all that water do to concrete? It'll erode concrete.
Well, again,
right?
that's why it is so important to get it dried out as fast as possible. Now, the thing is, did he have any sheetrock damage? Did any water wick up the walls?
Mm-hmm.
That's another question you got to ask yourself real fast. Because
that's easier though to determine because visually you can see it.
You can test it with a moisture meter. You can slap that baby up there and find out what your moisture content is. So that is the real trick here, is just getting it dried out. If it dries out and there's really not that much what I would call structural damage, then you're kind of in a spot where I usually get walked in is usually after the disaster.
Right.
And it's months later, and they're looking at the floor, and they're, if you look at the floor and just kind of go, it's gone, it's gone. But if you look at the floor and you got that thought in the back of your head going, if we sanded this and kind of put a cool stain on it, it's going to look different. It's going to be interesting.
Yeah, and it'll be a more updated stain color, I'm sure, as well.
Because a lot depends on how long that water was down there. Because if it just happened and he got the water up quick.
Well, the truth is, this could have been going on for days, and he checks in. He doesn't go there every day.
Well, we're going to say he got lucky.
Yeah, he happened to be there at the right time.
Happened to walk in at the right time and take care of it.
Well, this is a very live and fluid situation, so we're going to be reporting back on this, and I'll see what he has. We'll check in week to week and see about this.
I would love to know how this turns out.
But when we come back, speaking of water, in our Great Moments in Building History, we're going to talk about the Mazatlán Aquarium in Mexico.
Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
Oh, I get it, Mr. Krabs. You told us the paint was permanent, so me and Patrick would be more careful and not get paint on anything.
Nah, I just like to mess with you.
News Talk 98.9, the roar of Memphis.
And welcome back to Tool Talk Radio, coming to you from the Brown Refrigeration Studios. I'm Joe Thorgerson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning, here with my buddy Allan Gilbreth from darkoakmedia.com and our pal Max over there behind the glass. You can call or text us at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling Hotline at 901-683-0989, especially if you want to wish Hedy Lamarr a happy 111th birthday. Of course, she's not around anymore, but still, very influential woman. Today is her birthday. And also, if you've got some opinions about some of the... we've been talking about a lot of futuristic concepts here, and I guarantee we're going to see some version of this here in the near future. Some of the things we were talking about earlier with more or less the try it before you buy it using virtual reality technology and things like that. And also, if you're out there and you've got some opinions about our buddy's flooring situation that, has a mid-century modern home that basically flooded, and he's debating whether it's time to go nuclear and rip the entire floor out or if there's a way to salvage the situation. So there's a lot on the table, but we're going to switch gears, you guys.
And now, great moments in building history.
Well, Allan, you brought us this. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it. I'm sure there's a more fluid way to pronounce this, but the Mazatlán Aquarium in Mexico, that's how it's spelled, so that's how I'm saying it. I'm shocked because I never got the impression you're much of a brutalist fan. Max and I enjoy brutalism construction. This is as unapologetically brutalist as you can get. This thing, when I first Googled it, sometimes there's these videos that show what cities might look like if they were abandoned for 100 years and we had, like in that Planet of the Apes movie or
like
something.
Dune.
Yeah, or
This
Dune.
is Dune.
That's what it looks like, and yet this structure's only a year old. And
Yes.
it's pretty cool, but I'm sort of interested in why you selected this one. So.
Well, I selected this one just for y'all, and it has massive implications for future construction.
Okay, so there's more to this story than just an interesting aquarium.
I will start at your fire pit in your backyard and work my way up to city planning based on this one structure.
Okay.
So let's go back in time a little bit when Tatiana Bilbao Estudio was bidding on how to build this aquarium. And it is an aquarium.
Right.
And I'm going to read the little quote here so everybody kind of gets exactly what Mazatlán purchased. The sales pitch is, imagine that it is 2289 and we just came across a ruin constructed in 2023 without knowing its purpose or reason. It's been underwater since 2100 and only surfaced in 2227. The waters receded, leaving behind a thriving marine life. So we are here to unlock the possibilities to find out what has happened in this space.
So to summarize it, Allan, essentially what I got from it is it's meant to look like a flooded ruin, like emerging out of the seas.
So they're not
exactly
even gonna, right out of the gate. Like, we're not going to put any fancy facade or trim work or anything. This is just going to...
All of it's gone. What we're left
minimalist
is exactly.
Yeah.
It comes with its own story.
There's literally nothing on it. It is concrete. It's a...
The fish tell the story.
Go Google it or go to our Facebook page. It's literally concrete completely on the outside. So.
By the way, if you need help spelling it, because Mazatlán, it's Mazatlan.
Now, this is part of the Sea of Cortez Research Center, and it is intended to create a seamless mixture of human and animal life.
Okay, because I wanted to zero in on one of the things. Yeah, go ahead. But
all right, so now this is a functional research facility. This is a functional marine environment. Translation, they've got ocean tanks, stingrays, touch tanks, the whole thing. But the main open public structure is meant to look like we just found it.
Okay.
So the biggest thing to this is, how do we make it fit in so seamlessly? That is the level of planning and structure and building that went into this. So it doesn't look new.
Yeah,
it
that's what's odd when you look
like
at
you just found it.
Right. It looks like, or it looks unfinished, or it looks something. But like I said, it looked like ruins that had plants growing over it and everything.
So the facades are all gone. All of the wonderful, fluffy, cute stuff that we think of aren't there, because that would have been washed away or destroyed by now. So what you're left with is honestly the brutalistic structure and where the water would be retained in it.
You know what else is interesting? It creates something that's sort of unique is if you just stumbled upon this place and you knew nothing about it, you would have no clue when it was built. This thing looks like it could have been built 80 years ago, or, whatever. You don't know because it's so minimal. Yeah.
So, in the home improvement department, why would you go look at this? Why would you go look at these pictures? And why would I say this is a great idea for your backyard? Because some people really like to have that item that looks brand spanking new.
Mm-hmm.
However, you work with a lot of clients with older homes, 1920s, 1940s. I've worked on stuff from 1890, and a lot of times you want to add a new feature, but you don't want it to look shiny and new.
Yeah.
You want to add a new feature, but it needs to seamlessly fit in with your mid-century modern, or your turn of the century, or even your Victorian. So this was an amazing study in how to build it, how to lay it out, how to decorate it. Because, all these plants got planted.
Right.
And it's designed to give you that, as Max has called it, that dune feeling.
Right. Well, there's two things about this that I appreciate. So it's like they didn't do things by half measures. And I guess what I mean by that is because I've also watched some videos of people that have gone in there and taken the tour and done the whole tourist thing. And they say there's a different vibe because, for example, like, we've all seen these aquariums where you might even walk under. I think the one in Atlanta, you can walk under the tank and it's very immersive. This one, for example, they have a viewing area. It's 40 feet tall. There's a piece there. It's glass, 40 feet tall, about 40 feet wide. It's very dark in there, and you're looking at this massive tank. You literally feel like you're underwater. And it's like, okay, this is an aquarium. We want you to feel like you're underwater. So and that is not an easy thing. I can't imagine the pressures on a 40-foot by 40-foot piece of glass. That's insane with all the millions of gallons of water. So the engineering is really impressive. But what else I also like about this is I would call this a street level aquarium. And what I mean by that is, okay, we've seen animal exhibits and things like that, and it's very polished and everything's real cutesy. Well, they have, for example, sea turtles in there that are missing a fin.
Sea turtles.
Yeah, because they got caught up in a fisherman's net, or they had a bad encounter with some stupid pull tabs that are floating around in the ocean, and it really lets you see what pollution and what our interaction does with marine life, and it maybe incentivizes you to let's not just fill up our oceans with garbage and everything. But I like that. They don't just hide them away. They put these fish that are damaged out on display, and you get to meet them.
They don't put the money beats in front first, as Dwight Schrute would say. I like the fact that they actually show an honest assessment of what the sea looks like. And what the sea looks like isn't always pretty, especially in terms of our negative contributions to it.
Yeah. So I like that. That's a feature.
Full research facility. Everything's going on. There's even a touch tank where you can go pet the little stingrays and stuff and discover that you really want to take one home.
Yeah.
But the lesson I'm going to give you from this is, obviously, I have a very large water feature in my backyard. I have an 8x8 fish pond.
And you probably have some breeds in there that you came up with yourself.
I have some very, let's just say I have some very advanced and sized goldfish.
Right.
I got a bullfrog that is never going anywhere. The thing is, it just looks like it belongs there. It's not a feature stuck in the yard. So as you look, and I really advise people, go check this place out online. And if you can go to Mazatlán, any good excuse to go to Mazatlán.
Yeah, it's very pretty. It's right there on the ocean. It's really nice.
If you can, go. But go check something like this online as you think about your projects at home and understand that there is no law against overbuilding.
Not when you're containing millions of gallons of water either.
Or a fire pit, or a water feature, or even an elevated garden.
Right.
Think about how you want to lay these things out and how you're going to blend it into the environment or make it stand out from it.
Right. Yeah.
So this is a great experiment in go look and take a look, and that kind of abandoned look is very, very intriguing.
I'm surprised by this, Max. I didn't know Allan would. Are you coming away to our way of thinking when it comes to brutalism? Because these are things we've kind of liked about it.
I like brutalism where it is applicable.
Okay.
I don't want to. If you're building something to a purpose, its purpose should never be overshadowed by the fuzzy coatings.
Applicable brutalism. That sounds like either the name of an album or today's show.
Absolutely. Applicable brutalism. Not bad, Max. All right, we're going to have some parting thoughts about the Mazatlán Aquarium, and then we're going to talk about a failed experiment with caulk.
Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
Pay the price for your lack of vision.
News Talk 98.9, the roar of Memphis.
And welcome back to Tool Talk Radio, coming to you from the Brown Refrigeration Studios. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning, here with my buddy Allan Gilbreth from darkoakmedia.com and our pal Max over there behind the glass. You can call or text us at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling Hotline at 901-683-0989. And also remember, you can send pictures there. Please send more tasteful pictures than our buddy Deuce likes to send us. So some of those are getting filtered out, Deuce. We don't put anything on the, we don't post anything.
Oh, I wish we did.
Yeah, but if they're cool and they're interesting, if you've got something that maybe you're really proud of, maybe you had a really cool home improvement experience.
I mean, I thought that was cool.
A project, yeah, send it over. Big M Roofing and Remodeling Hotline, 901-683-0989. I just want to plant a seed for a future discussion since we were talking about something like this. Right as we were coming in from the break, we heard our buddy Jake talking about robots. He doesn't like the idea of humanoid-looking robots working next to them. However, let's be honest. If you work in any kind of a factory or any kind of a manufacturing situation, even in many wood shops and things, you're working along more or less a robot, a CNC machine. Am I wrong, Allan?
No.
A 3D printer is a robot. So maybe the beef is anthropomorphizing them. Maybe the fact that they look like us is the problem. Not if you have a robotic arm that's making something. I don't know. I think that's going to play a role in our conversation in the future. So.
Although that kind of leads to discrimination in terms of appearance of AI. We kind of we make them in a way we think they should be rather than giving them the choice of how they want to appear.
Yeah, I think there's going to be, I think that's going to, anyway. And we've got some parting thoughts about the great, Allan couldn't care less, I don't know, but
hey,
we like getting philosophical, too.
As a member of the Cyborg Overtake Committee,
yeah. We're getting a little too close for comfort. Allan is part robot already, so
we'll.
Okay.
Hey, we can't discuss the revolution with a revolutionary.
Yeah, exactly. We're gonna. Like I said, we've got some parting thoughts about our great moments in building history, the Mazatlán Aquarium in Mexico. Before we do that, though, we want to talk about our good buddy Jay Hill with Big M Roofing and Remodeling, and the name says it all because, and I tease him sometimes for the length of this website address, but it's important because for one thing, we always showcase his roofing expertise. He's a GAF Master Elite Installer. He is always 5 stars with the Better Business Bureau, and these are roofing systems that they install. They're so well engineered. They look very simple. They actually look very charming. They look nice. They're artistic. And yet they're so well engineered that they offer lifetime transferable warranties. But Jay Hill doesn't stop there. The 5-star rating, it also includes the full exterior protection of your home, from roofing to gutters, to siding to windows, and interior remodeling. I mean, he pretty much, you're not going to stump Jay. If you go, I wonder if Jay can do this, just pretty much assume he's going to do it. And he's got a great team. And I think it's also part of the great business culture that Jay created, and also the optimism and enthusiasm he brings to every project. I don't know. I mean, he makes me feel tired sometimes after I'm talking to him. The guy's got more energy. You know what I mean, Al? He's showing you pictures of the latest project, and he's scrolling through, and you're like, I mean, it's nice when somebody really enjoys their work, but also that makes him more knowledgeable. He's eager to be out there and studying the latest developments.
Well, exactly. After all these years, he is still absolutely stoked,
right,
to be in his business.
Yeah, when the newest shingle design comes out, he's over there showing it to you.
Oh, yeah.
Like it's a picture of his grandchild or something.
He can't wait.
It's great, but that's something you need. And also, what's great about Jay, which is a huge advantage over some of his competitors, is the fact that he is a former insurance agent, because there's many times, especially with the exterior of your home, where you may have damage that's the question becomes, is this covered by my homeowner's insurance or not? Well, don't call your insurance company first. Call Jay, because if it is covered, it's more or less you need an advocate. And if you do these things out of order, you can get in real trouble. So call Jay. It's a free consultation. He's going to look over the situation with you and give you realistic expectations. And if there is a path forward where it is covered by your homeowner's insurance, man, is that exciting. he takes something that could be a very expensive and intimidating project, and suddenly there's a path forward. That's how Allan and I both had our roofs replaced. It's a really great feeling. And if not, then he tells you that too, but you're an informed consumer. And like I said, the consultation is free. We love Jay Hill. We love the business culture, and we love the fact that he encourages you to call him directly. So call him during the big game. That's the true test. Next time there's a really crucial, U of M game or NFL game on, call him at that moment and see if he answers the phone. We bet he will. You can call him at 901-484-5645 or go to bigmroofingandremodeling.com. Well, before the break, we were talking in our great moments in building history about the Mazatlán Aquarium in Mexico. Really interesting structure. The concept is very interesting. Okay, let's just say this: no frills. This is brutalism on display. These are unpolished concrete walls on the side. They didn't even remove the little holes that came from where the forms were fitted. I think these are called tilt-up construction. You pour like a 3-foot thick slab of concrete, you stack them up, and you build it. And one thing that you talked about is they like the idea of this being more or less a timeless construction, where you could look at this and this thing only opened in 2023, yet if you stumbled upon this, you wouldn't know if you're looking at something that was built 80 years ago or recently. But one thing I like about that, I'm probably going to butcher this quote, but there is a famous quote. I think it goes along the lines of, those who are married to their age soon become widows. You know what I mean? Like, you think everybody's doing this flashy blue tile as a backsplash, and I've got to do that. Or this one design feature because this is the hot, trendy feature, and in 3 years you hate it.
Yep.
There's something to be said for just backing off a little bit with your design choices and doing something a little more ageless. I'm just a big fan of that, because you have to be honest with yourself. You will, to quote Allan, you will admit your lifestyle. You're going to get tired of stuff if it's too trendy.
Well, I'm a huge proponent of function over form.
Oh, well, this is his function. This is all about function.
This is pure functionality, and this is and again, the whole idea is this is what's left. And my application to your backyard is think your ergonomics through. If you got a big dog, do not put anything in that dog's path as it comes tearing in from a bad case of the zoomies from the back fence.
Yeah.
You know where he's going to run. Don't put a tree there because he's plowing over it.
Yeah.
If you've got kids, let's look. Looking at a building like this, which is like, all right, guys, this is what's left over. This is what happens when it's used.
Yeah.
I like to start, as I told a friend of mine, I'm getting involved in kind of gonna help them open a business. And I said, great, let's start at the dumpster. And let's work our way back in. Because
what do you mean by that?
Well, what do I mean by start at the dumpster? Start at the dumpster means of how are you going to clean this? How are you going to take care of this? Where are you going to store this? Where are you going to? So I'm asking all of the questions people ask normally after they fell in love with, oh, isn't it beautiful?
Yeah.
Well, but now it needs 3 more closets. Now it needs 6 more of this. Now I want to start at the dumpster.
Right.
How am I going to clean this place?
Yeah.
Well, Allan, it's just an office. Okay, it's still got to be cleaned and vacuumed, the trash taken out, the bathrooms have still got to be cleaned, the toilet paper's still got to be loaded. Allan, you're thinking too much. No.
It's all inevitable. You're going to have to deal with it at some point.
I don't want to think about this after I'm done. I want it to just be obvious.
Right.
And, stupid things like, all right, well, how many people are going to be in this building? 6 or 7. Okay, where are you going to put a case of toilet paper? Well, we're not going to buy a case of toilet paper. Yeah, you are. You're going to go to your big club store and you're going to buy a case of toilet paper. Where are you going to put it?
Right.
Oh, well, it will have to go. All right, now you're thinking like I'm thinking. Let's work backwards in. So when people come to okay, I want to add a water feature or a fire feature, because right now, A dear friend of mine has got a fire pit we built a few years ago, and if it ain't fire pit weather tonight, I'll eat your hat.
It's getting to be perfect.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
It's cool. It's crisp. It's amazing. And a fire pit is an absolute astounding feature. But you got to put it in the right place. You got to be able to access it. You got to be able to clean it. So there's a lot of little questions you need to ask yourself before we just stick it right outside the back door.
Yeah, this place looks like it was built with that in mind. We're going to have to hose this thing off. We're going to have to pump water out of here. We're going to have to install, reinforced glass, and it does function very well. So
that is where you get into my little bit of a functional brutalism soul. Because once you've got the function handled, then you can add form.
Yeah.
So I want to put these extra things on it. I want it to look a certain way. Well, let's figure out all the functionality of it first and sit down with a piece of paper and a pencil and go, all right, so I'm going to put a raised bed. Where do I want to put this bed? Will my hose reach it? Can I water it? What am I going to put in it?
Yeah.
Lots of questions that make your choices much more enjoyable over the next 5 years and less of a pain.
And you know what else I like about this, as a parting thought, is sometimes, there's this tendency to hide the mechanics or hide the something, how something's working. I kind of like the steampunk aesthetic of, hey, I don't mind that I'm seeing how this mechanism works. That's almost a design feature. We don't have to cover up all the gears and cogs and levers and stuff. Let's celebrate it. Let's look at it. That's part of the structure. We don't have to hide it, and it makes it easier to get to.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Let's make it easier. So if you got to change oil in something, or you got to, make it so it's easy on you, so you will do it.
Kind of like clocks. When you see a transparent clock where you're seeing all the mechanisms, that's kind of cool.
Oh, that's just fascinating.
Yeah,
I love watching those things.
It's definitely an interesting rabbit hole to go down. The Mazatlán Aquarium, and we'll be following its career with a great interest because, let's face it, it's a brand new structure.
Brand new. I can't wait to see what it looks like next year.
Okay. I don't know that this is a disaster story. It's just I guess, a cautionary tale all about caulk fumes. We're going to talk about that when we come back here on Tool Talk Radio.
News Talk 98.9, the roar of Memphis. Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
Brought to you by Dynamite Dave's 1-minute tree removal. At Dynamite Dave's, we don't believe in chainsaws, safety harnesses, or waiting around. If that tree isn't reduced to a cloud of sawdust in 60 seconds or less, your next ear doctor appointment is on us. Don't let common sense stand in the way of a good idea. Call Dynamite Dave's 1-minute tree removal today.
And welcome back to Tool Talk Radio. Coming to you from the Brown Refrigeration Studios. Well done, Max. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry, and Wood Turning, here with my buddy Allan Gilbreth from darkoakmedia.com and our pal Max over there behind the glass. You can call or text us at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling Hotline at 901-683-0989. We also invite you to visit us on Facebook. Go to Tool Talk Radio, and we want to welcome Sid, who's a new follower of ours on Facebook.
Excellent.
Hey, Sid, welcome to the family. I don't think you'll regret this, and if you do,
send us some pics, man. We want to see what you're up to.
Yeah, send us some pictures and join the. We appreciate everybody joining the Tool Talk Radio community. So, in a minute, we're going to get to a tale of woe. Maybe I'm building this up. I mean, far be it for me to make a bigger issue out of things than we can. But it was a cautionary tale about caulk. Let's just put it that way. Before we get to that, though, I do want to say we're only going to be talking about this for 2 more weeks, so I feel justified. I want to make sure everybody goes to the Memphis Comic and Fantasy Convention this year. It's going to be a good one. For one thing, we are at the really comfortable and spacious University of Memphis Holiday Inn, it's pretty cool. If you've never been over there, that is almost a historic site. There's Kemmons Wilson. It's like a teaching hotel, and there's like a mini museum of that. But the Memphis Comic and Fantasy Convention is a lot of fun. It's a family-friendly event, and we purposely keep the tickets very affordable. It's a celebration of superheroes, science fiction, fantasy, because, Alan and I are big geeks, and Max. All of us are big fans of this. And we have a really excellent celebrity guest this year, Brandon Potter. Among other things, he's an anime voice actor. He's a video game voice actor, but he's best known for playing Quintus from that world-famous streaming show, The Chosen. He's a great character. He's really funny and sort of sinister as well. And you can meet Brandon. And the tickets are super affordable, and we have a 33% discount promo code going now. So if you go to checkout and you order your tickets, type in the word chosen in all capital letters, and you get a 33% discount. But this sale ends November 15th, and after that, tickets are regular price. But go to memphiscfc.com or just Google Memphis Comic and Fantasy Convention and follow us on Facebook. But get involved. It's really fun. It's a great event, and I don't know anybody that's ever gone to our event that hasn't had a blast. And it's, folks, I got a little tip for you. It is one of the best shopping experiences you're ever going to get. You get one-of-a-kind, really interesting items, and you get to meet the artist that made them as well. So, and Allan will be set up there with Dark Oak Media. So while we're on that note, Allan, what is Dark Oak Media up to this week? So,
it's going to be a lot about cooking coming up here real quick.
Big surprise.
So, yeah, I know it's a shocker. So, yeah, we're having a lot of fun. And, of course, the big thing is our podcasts are available out on YouTube. So you can pop into tooltalkradio.com and click on the links and see what we're up to.
And Allan, he's got the gear too. So if you're out there and you're like, I'm a content creator and I'd like to take my my content up to the next level, and you want to be on a station, well, Allan might put you on if you're good enough.
We might be able to introduce you to the right people.
So get in touch. So, all right, that's our promotions out of the way. But sometimes we neglect to do that, so I wanted to be sure. And you're only going to be hearing about the Memphis Comic and Fantasy Convention for a couple more weeks. So, I forgot to say it is November 23rd and 24th, by the way. Okay, this I guess I've really built this up. However, if this was on another job site, I would have sort of been embarrassed. So here's what happened.
Okay.
Now, so here's the deal. Okay, as probably a lot of our regular listeners know, I've been on this project. We're really finally reaching the end of it, but it's been a very enjoyable. I'm building this laundry room and a huge carport. The carport was a bigger challenge than the laundry room, but it's really coming together beautifully. I'm very happy with the results, but now it's the sheetrock's up, and it's time to start floating and trim, putting up the wood trim. Well, so here's the deal, Allan. We've got crown molding that's going up, and so we know crown molding's going up. So when I put the sheetrock up, I didn't really care what the corners look like, where the ceiling meets the wall. In other words, because it's all going to be hidden. You know what I mean? So I didn't get too hung up on if I cut the sheetrock a half an inch short or something. I didn't care because it's all going to be disguised. However, you know me, I'm all about air tightness and keeping the room draft free. I said, well, I still got to caulk it because it's going to, there could be a draft that could find its way in, and far be it for me to allow that. So I'm like, well, nobody's going to see this either. And so I just grabbed whatever leftover caulk I had, and I had a couple of tubes of this sealant really good stuff actually. It's a clear sealant, and it's highly flexible. I can't remember the name of it, but basically it comes in a caulking tube, very flexible. It's what I use to seal between the brick and my studs and everything to keep the draft out. Well, I put it up. And I'm like, okay, it's got a little bit of a fragrance to it. Then I went to lunch, and I came back, and it almost knocked me over the fumes in there. Okay, I don't know what's in there, and I think it's a latex caulk or something. But Allan, if this was some other customer, because the customer came home, and he's become more or less a friend of mine at this point. Right. He's like, wow, what did you put in here, man? He goes, what's in this joint compound? I said, it isn't that. And it was a little embarrassing because I'm like, I just fumigate. I mean, you almost had to fumigate the room. I opened up everything, but what? Okay, here's my question. When I put it up, it didn't bother me. Can fumes accelerate? In other words, are there chemical reactions going on where this thing, I'm telling you, man, it's like it accelerated and mutated or something, but
well, you're bringing up my favorite lie in home construction and DIY.
Yeah,
and that is the word dry.
Well, there you go. All
right, it ain't drying.
There's chemical
Paint does
reactions.
not dry.
Right.
Mud does not dry. It cures. Now, the curing process removes moisture, but the curing process also releases a wide variety of chemicals.
Right.
As it moves through its process.
Does that mean by that logic that your paint is never really quote unquote dry? It's always in a perpetual state of moisture?
It is always in a perpetual state of moisture content, but the curing process will complete, especially in the presence of air.
Which is funny because in my experience, I feel like when you paint trim with latex, I feel like it takes much longer to cure than oil base, which is counterintuitive. Maybe it doesn't, but it's dry to the touch faster in the long run,
It really depends on whose paint, what mix, and what finish.
Yeah.
It really, really does. I mean, when you think about all of our caulks these days and our paints, these are no longer simple. These are chemical masterpieces that accomplish jobs we couldn't dream of 80 years ago.
Yeah. It's doing a lot under the surface that you're not aware of.
There is so much going on. So the particular chemical process of that particular caulk that you were using has to remain flexible. So it's not going to cure to a dry state.
Well, here's my other question, because it was in direct contact with like sheetrock dust and things like that. Well, does that make its own fume? I'm just thinking if you're cooking with ingredients and you mix them, you're going to get weird.
Well, that's like we said earlier in the show, talking about weird stuff that people mixed into their joint compound, a.k.a. mud, of back in the 60s and 70s.
Okay.
Everybody was kind of like, well, no, if you want to make you want to make colored stuff, there's ways to do it, and there's stuff mixed in it. So, yes, Joe.
Okay.
There's stuff in your caulk.
I guess the cautionary tale is communicate that with the customer.
Yes.
But anyway, whatever. No harm, no foul. Well, there's the music. You've been listening to another unique episode of Tool Talk Radio, but it's time to get out of here. So on behalf of my buddy Allan Gilbreth and our pal Max over there behind the glass, I'm Joe Thorderson. Thanks for listening to Tool Talk Radio, and we'll see you next week.
Genesis Diamonds